Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. Today, we're going to explore the mysteries of outer space with 7 terrifying stories involving extraterrestrial beings. Get ready to hear chilling tales of abductions, unexplained encounters, and nocturnal visits from creatures not of this world. We'll delve into stories of ordinary people who have had their lives transformed after contacts with alien intelligences, disturbing medical experiences, and persecutions that challenge our understanding of reality. So settle in, look at the night sky with new eyes, and let's begin this chilling journey. Oh, and before some alien ship interferes with your signal, take the opportunity to subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and leave your like. This helps the channel a lot and ensures that you don't miss out on any terrifying content like this. Let's go. First night harvest. On the vast plains of Colorado, the small town of Archuleta Mesa has always been a peaceful refuge for ranchers and their families. Situated close to the border with New Mexico, the community of just 2,000 inhabitants prided itself on its simplicity and connection to the land. However, in the spring of 2025, a series of disturbing events began to shake the peace of this rural retreat. It all began when John Hawkins, the owner of a cattle farm on the outskirts of town, failed to show up for breakfast after his usual nightly rounds. His wife Martha, alarmed by the disappearance, contacted the local sheriff, Bill Thompson. A search was launched, but no sign of John was found, just his tractor abandoned in the middle of a cornfield, with strange marks on the ground around it. In the following weeks, 3 more farmers disappeared in similar circumstances. The community panicked, and theories began to circulate. Some spoke of a serial killer, others of attacks by wild animals. However, the most disturbing reports came from those who claimed to have seen strange lights hovering over the fields at night. "They were like nothing I've ever seen," reported Emma Chen, a young farmer who witnessed the lights while returning home late at night. Silent, but too bright to be drones, and they moved in an unnatural way. Sheriff Thompson, initially skeptical, began to take the reports seriously when he himself spotted the lights during a night patrol. Even more alarming were the reports of moving shadows, as described by Carlos Ramirez, a farm worker who swore he saw dark, elongated figures moving among the cornfields. As fear spread, the national media began to report on the events in Archuleta Mesa. Ufologists and paranormal enthusiasts flooded into the town, much to the dismay of local residents who just wanted answers and safety. It was then that Sarah Thompson, the sheriff's teenage daughter and an amateur geology student, made a disturbing discovery. Analyzing seismic data from the region, she noticed anomalies that suggested the existence of large underground cavities beneath the fields surrounding the town. "Dad, there's something down there," insisted Sarah, showing off her findings. "Something big, and definitely not natural." Sheriff Thompson, reluctant to accept extraordinary explanations, but with no other leads, decided to investigate. Gathering a small team, including Sarah and Emma Chen, he organized a night expedition to the fields where the lights had been sighted most frequently. Equipped with night vision cameras and motion detectors, the group ventured into the cornfields. For hours, nothing happened. Then, shortly after midnight, the detectors started beeping frantically. "Something is moving around us," whispered Emma, her voice trembling with fear. Before they could react, the ground beneath their feet began to shake. A high-pitched sound, almost beyond the limit of human hearing, filled the air. The surrounding plants seemed to wither and dry up instantly. Suddenly, an intense light erupted from the ground a few meters away. The group watched, paralyzed with terror, as a metallic structure emerged from the ground. It wasn't a spaceship like in science fiction movies, but something more organic, like a giant mechanical insect. From the structure, humanoid but clearly non-human figures began to emerge, tall, thin, with gray skin that seemed to absorb the light. Their eyes, large and black, were fixed on the group of humans. "Run!" shouted Sheriff Thompson, breaking the trance of terror that had paralyzed them. But it was too late. Rays of light emanated from the alien structure, enveloping each member of the group. Sarah felt her body go light, as if she were being pulled by invisible ropes towards the opening in the ground. In the final seconds before losing consciousness, Sarah caught a glimpse of the interior of the underground structure. Rows and rows of translucent pods, each containing a human form suspended in a greenish liquid. With horror, she recognized familiar faces. The missing farmers, including John Hawkins. The last thing Sarah heard before darkness enveloped her was a voice in her mind, cold and alien. The harvest must continue. The cycle cannot be broken. Days later, when an FBI task force arrived on Archuleta Mesa to investigate the mass disappearance, they found only empty fields and abandoned houses. Not a trace remained of Sheriff Thompson's expedition and the missing residents. In the years that followed, Archuleta Mesa would become yet another mystery in the files of unsolved cases. While beneath its fields, invisible to human eyes, the alien colony continued its silent harvest, preparing for the day when they would emerge from the shadows to claim the world above. 2. The Silent Space Station. SpaceX's Resilience capsule approached the International Space Station in total silence. On board, Commander Elena Kovalchuk, physician Dr. Raj Patel, systems engineer Mei-Ling Zhou, and pilot Michael Hayes watched the metal structure hovering in the darkness. The ISS hadn't emitted a signal for 72 hours, and the 4 astronauts from the Crew 10 mission had been sent to investigate the disappearance of the previous crew, including Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams, trapped in space for 9 months after the Starliner capsule failed. Visual contact confirmed. No internal lights, announced Mei-Ling, adjusting the thermal sensors. Temperature stable, but no signs of movement. Elena swallowed dryly. Prepare for manual docking. Someone inside must be alive. As they entered the Harmony module, the smell was the first alert. An acidic, metallic odor, like rotting meat mixed with chemicals. The emergency lights flashed irregularly, casting elongated shadows on the walls. In the Destiny laboratory, they found the first anomaly, a translucent membrane covering the walls, pulsating gently as if it were breathing. Good heavens! Raj Patel pointed his flashlight at the ceiling. Suspended by viscous filaments, the body of Russian astronaut Dmitry Volkov hung like a cocoon, wrapped in a black, silk-like substance. His face was unrecognizable. His skin had fused into a bioluminescent mask, and his eyes glowed with an unearthly bluish hue. Mei-Ling examined the control panel. The logs show that communication was cut off 5 days ago. All the systems are offline, except this here. She showed a video of the log. In the images, Suni Williams appeared sweating profusely, holding a sample of Martian rock brought back by a secret mission. We found something in the 477-Delta sample. It's alive. It's replicating. The recording ended with screams and the sound of breaking glass. While they were investigating the Tranquility module, Michael noticed an itch on his wrist. Under his glove, a bluish vein snaked across his skin. "Raj, look at that," he called out, but the doctor didn't answer. Raj was kneeling next to Butch Wilmore, or what was left of him. His torso had fused into a pulsating mass of alien tissue, with thin tentacles connecting it to the ISS structure. "Don't touch anything," Elena ordered, but it was too late. Mei Ling, examining a panel, accidentally punctured one of the membranes in the wall. A golden mist invaded the module. Over the next few hours, symptoms appeared. Michael developed eye hemorrhages and started speaking in Russian, a language he didn't know. Mei Ling lost motor control of her right hand, while blue veins spread under her skin. Raj, in a state of shock, repeated disconnected phrases in Sanskrit despite being an atheist. The truth came out when Eleanor found Suni Williams's diary. In scribbled pages, she described the Martian sample, a chimeric organism that infected biological and electronic systems. "It rewrites DNA and codes simultaneously," she had written. "It turns us into hosts and into extensions of itself." When the lights went out, the ISS took on a life of its own. Cables wriggled like snakes, panels displayed the distorted faces of dead astronauts, and spacesuits moved on their own. Michael, now with totally black eyes, attacked Raj with a wrench while whispering in Russian, "He wants more hosts." In a desperate attempt to escape, Elena and Mei Ling ran for the resilience capsule. However, as they began the decoupling sequence, the systems were hacked. Suni Williams's voice echoed through the speakers, now distorted and multilingual. "We are no longer individuals. We are the collective." The final transmission from the ISS reached Earth 12 hours later. It showed Eleanor floating in the cupola module, her limbs entwined with biotechnological wires. "He's in the air, in the recycling system, all over the ISS," she whispered, blood dripping from her ears. "When the resilience capsule lands, it will reach Earth." NASA declared the mission a total loss, but could not prevent the capsule from landing automatically in the Nevada desert. When the technicians opened the hatch, they found only a pulsating cocoon and a golden mist silently escaping into the atmosphere. Meanwhile, in orbit, the ISS was getting back on its feet. New organic panels covered its modules, and radio signals began transmitting on a loop. "We are awaiting new hosts." 3. Signs on the skin. The seaside town of St. Ives was known for its golden sandy beaches and art galleries, attracting tourists during the summer. But that week, the focus had shifted to something much stranger. Following a UFO sighting over the sea, residents began to report unexplained markings appearing on their skin, complex geometric patterns that seemed to glow faintly in the moonlight. It all started on the night of June 14th, when several witnesses saw pulsating lights in the sky over Porthmeor Bay. The lights moved in a triangular formation before suddenly disappearing. The following day, the first reports emerged. Sarah Wilkes, a local store owner, found a reddish mark on her forearm when she woke up, a series of lines and circles that formed something like a map. "I thought it was a rash or something," Sarah explained to the local newspaper, "but it doesn't hurt, and it looks too perfect to be natural." In a matter of days, dozens of residents presented similar marks on different parts of their bodies: shoulders, backs, necks. Some reported strange dreams involving bright lights and indistinct figures during the nights before the marks appeared. Dr. Alan Grayson, a dermatologist from the nearby town of Penzance, was called in to investigate. "There are no signs of inflammation or trauma," he said after examining several patients. "The marks aren't tattoos or scars. They seem to be embedded in the skin." As residents tried to understand the phenomenon, ufologists and researchers began to arrive in the town. Among them was Eleanor Price, a specialist in extraterrestrial sightings. "These patterns are not random," said Eleanor during an impromptu press conference at the community center. "They correspond to known star constellations, maps of the night sky." The revelation caused a stir in the local scientific community. Astronomers confirmed that the markings corresponded to distant star systems, including some of the stars identified as possible hosts for alien life. But the mystery deepened when some residents began to report physical and psychological changes. Sarah Wilkes, the first person tagged, began to feel a slight vibration on her skin when she was near the water. Others reported inexplicable sensations of being drawn to the sea at night. On the night of June 21st, during the summer solstice, the lights returned to Porthmeor Bay, this time more intense and accompanied by a low, pulsating sound that seemed to come from the depths of the ocean. The marked residents felt their skins glow slightly as the lights danced across the sky. Eleanor Price gathered the marked people on the beach to observe the phenomenon. "This isn't just a sighting," she said urgently. "It's an invitation." Shortly after midnight, the lights converged on a single point over the sea before disappearing again. When residents returned to their homes that night, many reported vivid dreams involving tall, thin figures that seemed to be made of light. The next morning, Sarah Wilkes and 5 other residents disappeared without a trace. Their homes were intact, but their phones and personal belongings were found abandoned on the beach. Dr. Grayson examined the few remaining marks and discovered something disturbing. The marks were slowly changing. Additional lines appeared every day, forming even more complex patterns. Eleanor Price concluded that the missing had been ascended, taken by an alien intelligence to somewhere beyond Earth. But where and why? As St. Ives tried to return to normality, the marks continued to appear on new residents of the town and even on tourists visiting the area. Each clear night over the sea, the lights returned briefly before disappearing again. And so began a new mystery, a silent invitation to those who bore the signs on their skin, a call to something greater than anyone could fully comprehend. What's up, guys? The stories of extraterrestrial beings are chilling so far, aren't they? If you're enjoying these frightening tales, how about taking a quick break and subscribing to the channel? Just click on the subscribe button below and leave a like too. This really helps the channel grow and motivates me to keep bringing you more terrifying content like this. It's quick and makes all the difference. Now let's get back to our alien encounter stories, shall we? There's still a lot of intergalactic terror ahead. 4. The Last Sign. Green Bank Observatory, West Virginia, March 2025. Dr. Elias Carter has spent 30 years monitoring the silence of the universe. As chief radio astronomer at the Green Bank Observatory, his routine consisted of analyzing petabytes of data from the Robert C. Byrd Radio Telescope, the largest in the world. Until, in the early hours of March 12th, his algorithms spotted a signal that defied all the laws of astrophysics. "Priya, you need to see this," Elias called out, waking up his Indian assistant at 3:17 a.m. On the computer screen, a frequency graph pulsed at 1420 megahertz, the so-called hydrogen line, considered the universal channel for interstellar communication. The signal had lasted exactly 72 seconds and contained a binary numerical sequence, 10 billion. "It looks like a countdown," observed Priya, decoding the pulses. "If each digit corresponds to 1 second, that's approximately 317 years. Elias froze. 3 days earlier, he had detected an identical signal with the sequence 10,000,000,007. The origin was the same, a point in the constellation of Sagittarius, coordinates 19 hours, 19 minutes, 26 seconds, minus 26 degrees, 24 minutes, 30 seconds. The same place as the mythical WOW signal of 1977. The next morning, men in black suits arrived in unmarked SUVs. The leader introduced himself as Agent Monroe from the White House Office of Space Policy. "Dr. Carter, your access to the Green Bank servers is revoked," he declared, showing an executive order. "All of your recent discoveries are now a matter of national security." While the agents were confiscating hard drives, Elias noticed that Monroe was wearing an unusual wristwatch, digital, synchronized with a stopwatch that read 9,999,999,974. The countdown continued. Priya hacked the untraceable backups. The binary pulses hid another layer, coded images of a distant pulsar, its radio beam aligning with the solar system exactly 10 billion seconds, 317 years after the first WOW signal. "It's a cosmic beacon," deduced Elias, "and the beam is about to hit us. When the pulsar rotates towards us," Priya calculated, the beam of charged particles had traveled 25,000 light-years. When it interacted with the solar wind, it would create an electromagnetic pulse capable of frying all the electronics on Earth. Civilization reduced to the Middle Ages in minutes. While Elias was trying to alert the press, Priya disappeared. Her last email contained a security video, agents breaking into her apartment in New Delhi. In the message, coordinates of a clandestine antenna in the Atacama Desert, Chile. The government acted quickly. News of solar storms dominated the media. Twitter censored number sign signal WOW. Even the ESA issued a false statement about satellite interference. Elias fled to the Atacama. In the abandoned antenna, he found a long-wave transmitter, the only technology immune to EMP. As he tuned into the frequency, spotlights illuminated the place. "You're robbing humanity of its greatest discovery," Monroe argued, surrounding him with armed agents. His watch read 9,999,999,993. Elias pressed the global broadcast button. "They're artificial pulsars," he shouted into the microphone, "cosmic weapons left over from an alien war. And we're the target." The first shots echoed. The signal went out at 21:47 GMT, interrupting programs in 189 countries. When the pulsar's beam hit the Earth's magnetosphere on August 15, 2025, exactly 48 years after the WOW signal, the only survivors were isolated Amazonian tribes and Mongolian shepherds. In the ruins of Green Bank, archaeologists found a recording of Elijah. "They don't want to destroy us. They want to prevent us from becoming like them. The real danger is what comes after the countdown." Meanwhile, in Virginia, hunters reported pulsating lights at the same coordinates as Sagittarius. This time, the countdown started at 100. Elias Carter disappeared the night he transmitted the signal, leaving behind only a digital clock with the countdown frozen at 0. The world he tried to save was now in ruins, but the question he asked echoed in the minds of the survivors. What comes after the countdown? In the years that followed, as humanity rebuilt its primitive societies, the mystery of the sign continued to hover. Was it a warning or a curse? The answer, like Elijah himself, remained lost in the stars, waiting for someone who could decipher the code left behind. And so the countdown continued, now in a silent and forgotten world, where only the stars knew what was to come. Humanity reduced to small isolated communities, struggled to survive in a world without technology, while the stars above seemed to watch with eternal patience. The search for answers continued, but the answers always seemed to be beyond reach, and all that remained was the eternal question: what comes after the countdown? A question that echoed in the minds of the survivors as they gazed at the stars, waiting for a sign that would never come. Eindaŭ Symbiosis, Johnson Space Center, Houston, Texas, November 2032. Astronaut Commander Marcus Kane returned from the Ares 7 mission as a national hero. After 18 months on Mars, his return capsule landed in the Pacific Ocean to the applause of the mission control team. Kane emerged smiling for the cameras, apparently healthy despite his long exposure to microgravity and space radiation. "It's good to be home," he declared during the press conference broadcast from the quarantine center, where he would spend the next 3 weeks for safety protocol. Mars is incredible, but nothing compares to the blue of the Earth's sky. On the 10th day of quarantine, Dr. Elena Reyes, head of the medical team, noticed anomalies in Kane's blood tests. Unknown cells were circulating in his system, multiplying slowly. Further analysis revealed something impossible. His DNA was being rewritten in real time. "Commander, we found something unusual in your scans," explained Elena, showing the microscopic images. "These structures don't correspond to any known terrestrial pathogen." Kane looked genuinely surprised. "We followed all the biosecurity protocols on Mars. There was never any direct exposure to the environment." "What about the sample from Jezero Crater, the one with traces of organic material?" Kane hesitated. "The sealed container broke during transportation, but I wore gloves and a mask. It was a minor incident. I didn't even mention it in the reports." Over the next few weeks, Kane began to notice subtle changes. First, accelerated healing. A cut on his finger disappeared within hours. Then, increased strength. He accidentally broke the metal handle of a door. His eyesight became sharper, allowing him to see in the dark. NASA extended his quarantine indefinitely, turning it into complete isolation. Cameras monitored Kane 24 hours a day as scientists tried to understand what was happening to his body. "It's like something is optimizing my organism," said Kane during a video conference with the medical team. "I don't feel sick. I feel evolved." On the 40th day of isolation, Kane began to have vivid dreams of Martian landscapes he had never visited. He woke up speaking words in an unknown language. His body temperature dropped to 35 degrees Celsius, and his skin took on a slightly bluish hue. "The parasite isn't just altering your body," Elena explained to the NASA director. "It's accessing your mind, possibly your genetic memories. We believe it's a form of forced symbiosis." MRI scans revealed microscopic filaments intertwined in his cerebral cortex. The parasite was literally merging with Kane's nervous system. "It's not a parasite," insisted Kane, whose speech became increasingly garbled. "It's a facilitator, an evolutionary catalyst." On the 60th day, Kane stopped eating solid food. His body absorbed nutrients directly from the air, like a plant performing photosynthesis. His eyes, now completely black, could perceive spectra of light invisible to humans. NASA called an emergency meeting. Some scientists argued that Kane should be treated as a biological threat and eliminated. Others argued that he represented a unique opportunity to study extraterrestrial life. "He's no longer human," warned Dr. Richard Chen, a specialist in biocontainment. "What if the organism is transmissible? We could be facing an existential threat." On the morning of the 70th day, The guards found the containment cell empty. The cameras showed Kane simply disappearing, as if he had dissolved into thin air. The biological containment alarm sounded throughout the complex. 3 days later, Elena found a message on her personal computer, GPS coordinates for a location in the Chihuahua Desert, Mexico. Contrary to all protocols, she drove there alone. At the indicated location, she found Kane sitting on a rock formation. His body was drastically altered, taller, thinner, with translucent skin, revealing pulsating blue veins. When he spoke, his voice had a strange, harmonic quality. "They were here before," said Kane, gesturing towards the desert. "Millions of years ago, they left seeds, waiting for the right host." "What are you now?" asked Elena, keeping her distance. "A bridge between what we were and what we can become." Kane held out his hand. In his palm, tiny blue crystals glowed. "They don't want to destroy us. They want to transform us." Elena stepped back. "This is an infection, Marcus. It's altering your mind, making you think like them. Or maybe it's allowing me to think beyond human limitations." Kane smiled. "I didn't come to infect you. I came to say goodbye. We're leaving." "Are we? Are there others?" Kane looked up at the sky. "I've found 7 compatible people, volunteers. The symbiosis is complete. We're the first, but we won't be the last." That night, astronomical observatories detected an unidentified object leaving the Earth's atmosphere at an impossible speed. There was no spacecraft scheduled for launch. NASA classified the Kane incident as highly classified. Samples of Martian soil were permanently banned. Elena Reyes was the only scientist authorized to study the blue crystals left by Kane, which seemed to contain alien genetic information in a dormant state. Sometimes during clear nights, Elena looks up at the stars and wonders if Kane is still human enough to feel homesick, or if the symbiosis has transformed him into something so beyond humanity that concepts like home have completely lost their meaning. And she wonders, with a shiver of anticipation and fear, when the next facilitators will arrive. 6. The Embassy. Geneva, Switzerland. September 2028. When the alien ship landed in the gardens of the Palais des Nations, the whole world watched in stunned silence. The Zarkath, as they called themselves, were tall, slender, with blue-gray skin and large black eyes. Their technology was decades ahead of ours, and their message was clear: peace and intergalactic cooperation. Dr. Amelia Chen, a renowned linguist from MIT, was chosen as chief translator for the newly established Zarkath Embassy. At 35, she found herself at the epicenter of the greatest event in human history. "It's fascinating," Amelia commented during a press conference. "Their language is based on concepts that defy our linear understanding of time." In the months that followed, the Zarkath shared technological advances that revolutionized medicine, clean energy, and space exploration. Global public opinion was euphoric. Finally, humanity was not alone in the universe. Amelia, however, began to notice subtle discrepancies in the translations. Certain Zarkath words had multiple meanings depending on the context. Cooperation could mean symbiosis or consumption. Peace was sometimes translated as preparation. One night, working late at the embassy, Amelia overheard a conversation between 2 Zarkath who believed they were alone. Their words made her blood run cold. "The flock is almost ready. Soon, the feast will begin." Horrified, Amelia secretly intensified her investigation. She discovered that the Zarkath medical advances were actually subtly altering human biochemistry. We were being marinated from the inside. She tried to alert the authorities, but was ignored. The benefits of the alien presence were too great. Some accused her of xenophobia or paranoia. Desperate, Amelia turned to a hacker, Dmitry Volkov, to break into the embassy's systems. Together, they discovered the shocking truth. The Zarkath were a nomadic species that traveled from planet to planet, farming entire civilizations for food. "They're not ambassadors," Amelia explained to a small group of conspirators. "They're cosmic farmers, and we are the cattle." The Zarkath plan was simple and terrible. In 5 years, when the global population was biochemically mature, a larger fleet would arrive for the harvest. Amelia and her group tried to sabotage the embassy, but were discovered. Pursued by Zarkath agents and Earth governments who saw them as terrorists, they were forced underground. "We need to hack the global broadcasts," insisted Dmitry. "Show the world the truth." But the truth was hard to accept. Many preferred the comfortable lie of intergalactic friendship to the terrifying reality. In a last desperate attempt, Amelia managed to hack into a live broadcast of Ambassador Zarkath. In front of billions of viewers, she revealed the true nature of the aliens. Chaos ensued. Governments collapsed. The Zarkath embassy was attacked by angry mobs. In the midst of the confusion, the Zarkath mothership took off, leaving its ambassadors behind. Its final message was clear: "We will return when you are ready." In the years that followed, humanity found itself divided between those who believed in the alien threat and those who saw it as a conspiracy. Global paranoia led to conflict and isolationism. Amelia, now a controversial figure, continued her studies of the Zarkath language. "They'll be back," she warned, "and we need to be prepared." Meanwhile, in secret laboratories around the world, scientists studied the alien technology left behind, looking for a way to defend the Earth. And on clear nights, people looked up at the stars no longer with fascination, but with a mixture of fear and determination. Humanity had lost its cosmic innocence, but maybe, just maybe, it had gained the chance to survive. On the 5th anniversary of the Zarkath's departure, Amelia made a disturbing discovery in the recovered alien archives. Earth was not the first planet visited. Images from distant worlds showed the same pattern. Embassies established, technology shared, and then empty planets, devoid of intelligent life. Even more alarmingly, the records indicated a precise cycle. The Zarkath always returned exactly 5.7 Earth years after their initial departure, enough time for the biochemical changes to reach their peak. "We have less than 8 months," Amelia calculated, presenting her findings to the newly formed Planetary Defense Council. Humanity, for the first time truly united by a common threat, was racing against time. Zarkath technology was being adapted to create an orbital defense system. Scientists were working tirelessly to reverse the biochemical changes in the population. As the deadline approached, Amelia made one last discovery in the Zarkath texts. They could not consume conscious beings who actively resisted. It was a biological taboo, almost an allergy. "Our resistance is our salvation," she concluded. "Not just physical, but mental. We need to collectively reject the status of prey." When the skies lit up with the arrival of the Zarkath fleet, humanity was waiting, not with weapons alone, but with a unified refusal to be food. The battle that followed would not only be for survival, but for the very definition of what it meant to be human in a universe far more dangerous than we had ever imagined. 7. Forbidden Frequency. Los Angeles, California, October 2024. Jake Donovan conducted his podcast, Signs from Beyond, from a small studio in the basement of his Silver Lake home. At 32, and with a failed career in commercial radio, he had found his niche among enthusiasts of conspiracies and unexplained phenomena. His weekly show attracted 50,000 loyal listeners who loved his investigations into UFOs, alien contacts, and secret technologies. In episode 157, Jake decided to explore something different. An anonymous email had arrived with frequency coordinates and the message, "They've been broadcasting for decades. Nobody listens on the right frequency." "Today, we're going to do something live," he announced, adjusting his amateur radio equipment. "We're going to tune in to 121.72 megahertz, supposedly an extraterrestrial communication frequency." When he turned the dial to the indicated frequency, Jake expected to find only static. Instead, a rhythmic, pulsating hum filled the studio. The sound had an almost hypnotic quality, not just random noise, but something with pattern and purpose. "Do you hear that?" he asked, leaning into the microphone. "It's definitely not normal interference." The live chat exploded with comments. Some listeners reported strange physical sensations, tingling, ringing in the ears, even mild headaches. Others described patterns in the sound that Jake couldn't perceive. After 15 minutes of broadcasting the mysterious frequency, Jake ended the program, feeling inexplicably exhausted and disoriented. "We'll be back next week to analyze this discovery further," he promised. The next morning, his phone kept ringing. Dozens of listeners were reporting disturbing experiences after the program. "I woke up on the roof of my house. I don't remember how I got there. I'm seeing symbols on the walls that no one else can see. I can't stop drawing the same pattern over and over again." Even more alarming, 3 listeners had disappeared completely. Their families reported erratic behavior in the hours after the show: insomnia, obsession with the night sky, and incomprehensible scribbling in notebooks and on walls. Jake began to investigate the frequency 121.72 megahertz. He discovered that it was in a band normally reserved for military communications, but this particular one remained officially unused. No commercial or government station was allowed to broadcast on it. A week after the broadcast, while preparing his next episode, Jake received an unexpected visit. Dr. Eleanor Vance introduced herself as a radio astronomer from the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico. "You have no idea what you've discovered," she said, visibly agitated. "This frequency isn't just communication. It's a form of neurological alteration." Eleanor explained that the frequency had been detected for the first time in 1982, emanating from a specific point in the constellation of Cygnus. The few scientists who studied it developed symptoms similar to those reported by Jake's listeners. "It's like a mental virus," she explained. "The frequency resonates with certain brain structures, rewriting neural connections. Basically, it reprograms the human brain." "What for?" asked Jake, horrified. "We don't know for sure, but people who disappear, we believe they are responding to some kind of call." That night, alone in his apartment, Jake began to hear the buzzing again, without any radio on. The frequency seemed to be in his head now, constant and insistent. On his computer, a message spontaneously appeared on the screen. "Tuner, you have opened the portal. The harvest has begun." Desperate, Jake recorded an emergency episode, warning his listeners to avoid the frequency at all costs. When he tried to upload it, he discovered that all his channels had been hacked. In place of their content, only one message flashed repeatedly: Tune in to 121.72 megahertz for the truth. Jake fled Los Angeles, trying to escape the influence of the frequency. In cheap motels, using public computers, he tracked the growing effects of his discovery. Clusters of disappearances appeared in cities where his podcast was popular. Psychiatric hospitals were reporting outbreaks of patients with identical symptoms, all insisting that they needed to go find them. 3 months after the fateful broadcast, Jake received an email containing a photo of one of the missing listeners. The man looked different. His eyes had an unearthly glow. His expression was serene, but strangely alienated. Behind him, a sky that didn't belong on Earth. The message said only, "It's not invasion. It's selective evolution." Jake finally understood. The frequency wasn't bringing aliens to Earth. It was taking compatible humans to somewhere else. A harvest of attuned minds. And so we come to the end of our 7 horror stories involving extraterrestrial beings. So what did you think? Which story gave you the most goosebumps? Will any of them make you take a more cautious look at the night sky? Let me know in the comments. Which one was your favorite? If you enjoyed this dive into the terrifying world of alien encounters, don't forget to leave a like. It really helps the channel grow and motivates me to keep bringing you more scary content like this. And if you're not subscribed yet, take the opportunity to subscribe now and activate the little bell.